4 years ago, in 2013, Black Lives Matter was founded in the aftermath of the Trayvon Martin shooting, and since then has expanded to over 30 activist chapters primarily focused on unjust killings of Black Americans in police shootings. However, while it is a noble goal, their methods are not without criticism and controversy. Law enforcement officers accuse them of being anti-police. Conservatives accuse them of being anti-what? Some Black Americans criticize a lack of focus on intra-racial violence. This is on top of blocking traffic, shutting down gay pride parades, and the unfortunate times rioting has ensued. This isn't to say that they're completely devoid of merits. There are stellar individuals and chapters within the movement who deserve to have their voices heard. But if they are to succeed, there are necessary steps that need to be taken in regards to organization, language, and coalition building. Movements have a short lifespan in America. Occupy Wall Street died, the Tea Party died, and Black Lives Matter will die as well if they don't adapt and form a real organization. And no, the current leaderful decentralized structure doesn't cut it. Yes, while the seductive advantage of decentralized movements is avoiding the chaotic aftermath of the assassination of charismatic leaders, the debilitating disadvantage is a chaos of dozens of chapters, hundreds of competing interests, and thousands of young activists who sometimes sabotage their own cause. Organizations are necessary not only to define who is a member, but also to define who isn't. For example, gay rights activists early on denounced and disinvited NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association, citing not only the personal disgust with a pedophile activist, but also noting the public relations damage by their mere association, especially with the public fear of gay men preying on young boys. If BLM wants to clean up their image of being anti-police, then they need to denounce and disinvite activists who hold banners and signs saying Black Lives Matter while chanting "Pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon!" Furthermore, the rare times that the national chapter demonstrates the power of denunciation, they condemned positive events which aim to build trust between police and minority communities, such as Wichita's First Step Barbecue. Black Lives Matter doesn't mean only Black Lives Matter, just as feminism doesn't mean only female rights are important. However, when membership isn't defined by something stronger than mere self-determination, it is not the calm voices of reason that wins out, but the wild screams of radicals that decide the connotation and sour public opinion. However, the name Black Lives Matter invites the typical questions of the uninitiated, such as, only Black lives? Or, what about Black on Black murders? And no, one should not respond to these inquiries with a self-righteous educate yourself, nor are debates over semantics a productive use of the activist's time. The activist has an idea that he or she wants to sell to the public. For optimal results, one should speak in a language inclusive to the public. Going back to the gays, we didn't say we wanted gay marriage, we said we wanted marriage equality. The national organization isn't called the Gay Rights Campaign, but the Human Rights Campaign. And when marriage equality was delivered, the trending hashtag wasn't gays win, but love wins. To have an easier time gaining support of the public is to make it their fight as well and to share in the victory. Black Lives Matter activists often find themselves countered by the phrase, all lives matter. However, this is where I can be considered crazy. I believe that the counter slogan is an early Christmas present wrapped in a pretty bow. The response, all lives matter, is the answer for a new name. Building a real coalition doesn't mean to focus on only one issue. Within reason, an organization can broaden themselves to engaging in multiple issues as long as they're related. However, no such moderation exists, but one applies intersectionality, that all forms of perceived injustice are interconnected, which leads to the need to adopt and address a variety of topics which opens far too many fronts, especially for young movements. For example, points 5 and 6 of the Movement for Black Lives list of demands titled End the War on Black People are particularly issue-ridden, demanding an end to all deportations and advocating for civil protections of gay and transgender individuals. Some say that this is necessary because there are Black illegal aliens as well as Black gay and transgender Americans. Why shouldn't advocates for Black lives include all Black lives? Here's why. Racial and ethnic minorities tend to be more socially conservative in regards to homosexuality and transgenderism. Let's not forget that it was less than a decade ago when Proposition 8, the ballot initiative to ban same-sex marriage in California, passed with 58% of Blacks supporting the ban. As for the climate on support for illegal aliens, need I remind anyone who is the president? The irony in intersectionality is that with the intention of being more inclusive, this openness risks closing doors to many people. A particularly polarizing group that Black Lives Matter would be better without a socialist alternative. Activists should emulate the wisdom of past Black civil rights leaders in distancing civil rights from affiliation with anti-capitalists. One should take caution not to alienate a pro-capitalist audience, especially Black entrepreneurs who are needed to return prosperity to Black communities. Putting together the necessity for a centralized organization, adopting broader language, and having a focused foundation for coalition building, advocates for Black prosperity would see much greater success for their efforts. Remind people that police brutality isn't just a Black issue. By the raw numbers alone, more white people are killed in encounters with police, and when it comes to rates, American Indians have the greatest chance out of any racial or ethnic category to be in fatal police-involved incidents. Furthermore, take a lesson from slave narratives, such as the writings from Harriet Jacobs, who invoked ideas greater than race to a white audience. She invoked their shared patriotism, their shared experience of motherhood, their shared belief in their shared God. Now, this isn't to say that no one should call the killing of innocent Black Americans to be an act of racism. To the contrary, I believe that the killing of any innocent American, white or Black, should be called racist, as it goes against the American race. It goes against the American values of the preservation of innocence, of the sense of justice that is instilled within all of us, that the death of one innocent American is the death of us all. There are wonderful acts of outreach that need to be accentuated, such as when Justice Damon, an unarmed white woman, was shot and killed by a Black Minneapolis police officer. There were Black activists like Chantel Allen, Kathy Jones, John Thompson, and Valerie Castillo, mother of Philando Castillo, who didn't hesitate to convalesce around the victim's family and march with them in their shared quest for justice. Also, back in September, Hank Newsom, president of Black Lives Matter in New York, was actually invited to the stage in DC and had the opportunity to profess universal truths to a pro-Trump audience.
When it says, love thy neighbor, it didn't say that neighbor had to be from the continental United States. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We love one another. The reason why we fight is to draw attention to issues and to fix it. We are not anti-cop. We are anti-bad cop. We say if a cop is bad, he needs to get fired like a bad plumber, like a bad lawyer, like a bad politician. Listen, if we really want to make America great, we do it together.
Now, there are some who object to this notion of taking the effort of appealing to the mainstream, that the righteousness of their position is self-evident, therefore it is the fault of everyone else for not joining their cause when they should. But how will one ever get to the world that should be if one doesn't address the world as is? Non-Black people like myself can only lend support, we cannot lead. This change has to come from within the Black community. Just as much as I despise identity politics, and that it shouldn't exist in the world that should be, it is the way that the world is. Kindness is the most simple, yet one of the most difficult tools to wield against cruelty. But you have to ask yourself, will kindness start with you?